California is losing its coast, not over centuries, not over decades. Right now, entire cliff faces are dropping into the Pacific in seconds, taking homes, roads, and railways with them. 3 women were trapped beneath a 50-ton slab of sandstone on a San Diego beach, a cliff that the city's own engineers had flagged as unsafe 20 years before it fell. Nobody fixed it. And the cliffs above that same beach are still standing, made of the same weak rock, unfixed. So here is what is actually happening right now in one of the wealthiest suburbs in Los Angeles County, and why it matters for every person living anywhere near the California coast. Rancho Palos Verdes sits on a peninsula 25 miles south of downtown LA. Ocean views, million-dollar homes, the kind of neighborhood where people raise families, retire, and plan to stay forever. And right now, 700 acres of it are sliding into the Pacific Ocean, not crumbling at the edges, not slowly wearing down, sliding. The ground beneath an entire neighborhood called Portuguese Bend is physically moving toward the sea. In the summer of 2024, the fastest sections were lurching at up to 13 inches per week. Think about that for a second. 13 inches every 7 days. The sidewalks crack open, the roads buckle and split, underground gas lines snap. And the homes sitting on top of all of it ride the whole thing toward the cliff like passengers on a ship that nobody can steer. What does that feel like if you live there? Sally Reeves is 82 years old. She moved to Portuguese Bend to retire back in 1982. She has lived in her home for over 40 years. She has watched a 6-foot crack split her property in half. The crack is still growing. Her answer to the evacuation warning? She is not leaving. Where would she go? Her home is her retirement. Her home is her savings. Her home is sitting on ground that moves 1.5 inches every week. Isabella Sejon is 23. She and her grandmother, Corinne Girard, who has lived there for 40 years, have watched 5 cracks open across their garden. 2 guest houses on the property have collapsed into rubble. Not damaged, collapsed, gone. And they are still living in the main house because there is no buyout check, no insurance payout, and no federal help coming. The Wayfarers Chapel, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright Jr. in 1951, had to be taken apart piece by piece and put in storage because the ground beneath it would not hold still. Rebuilding will cost an estimated $20 to $30 million. A building that stood for over 70 years, taken down not by a storm, not by a fire, but by the ground slowly pulling itself apart underneath it. And here is where it gets worse for the people living through this. Southern California Gas cut natural gas to 135 homes. Portuguese Bend in July 2024 after the sliding ground broke underground pipelines. Those families still do not have gas. They cook on portable stoves. They heat water with electric kettles. In the winter, some families slept in jackets indoors because they had no way to heat their homes. Some have left. Many cannot afford to. Where do you go when your home is worth less than what you owe on the mortgage? By early September, Southern California, Edison shut off power to 245 homes with no end date after a downed power line sparked a fire near Narcissa Drive. Governor Newsom declared a state of emergency. As of right now, 174 of those homes still have no electricity, no lights, no refrigerators, no air conditioning in a part of California where summer temperatures push past 90 degrees. Families with young children and elderly relatives are living in conditions that most people in this country would not accept for a week. These families have been living this way for over a year. And it is not just the basics they have lost. Property values in the slide zone have collapsed. Homes that were worth $2 or $3 million are now effectively unsellable. No buyer is going to take on a home with no utilities on land that is still moving. The families who stayed are trapped. They own homes they cannot sell, in a neighborhood they cannot leave, on ground that has not stopped shifting. And the city paying for all of this is going broke. Rancho Palos Verdes has a yearly budget of roughly $40 million. The landslide response alone is expected to cost $64.4 million by June 2026. That is not a typo. The city is spending more on one emergency than it earns in an entire year. Mayor David Bradley is watching the numbers, and there is no version of them that works. The math is simple. The city cannot afford its own disaster. So naturally, they asked the federal government for help. FEMA turned them down flat. They rejected a $37.9 million disaster recovery request in January 2025. The reason? They called the landslide a pre-existing condition, not a disaster, not an emergency. A pre-existing condition, like a chronic illness on a health insurance form. The city appealed. FEMA turned them down again in October. A separate $23 million FEMA grant that had already been awarded to the city was pulled entirely when the national program behind it was canceled in April 2025. Money that was already in hand, taken back. And a $42 million buyout program that was supposed to purchase homes from families who cannot live in them anymore, still not officially funded. The program exists on paper. The checks do not exist yet. Even if the money comes through, it would pay homeowners 75% of what their homes were worth before the disaster. For families who spent decades paying mortgages on homes worth well over $1 million, that means walking away with a fraction of everything they put in. So right now, across 700 acres of sliding ground, the situation is this. The evacuation warning is still active. 174 homes have no power. The ground is still moving. The city is out of money. FEMA is not helping. The buyout checks have not arrived. And the families still living there are stuck between a home they cannot sell and a cliff they cannot stop. Now here is where this stops being a local story. Because the reason Rancho Palos Verdes is sliding is the same reason cliffs are collapsing up and down the entire California coast right now. 72% of California's coastline is made of soft rock, sandstone, shale, packed ancient seabed. On a standard rock hardness scale, it scores an average of 28 out of 100. Granite scores in the 80s and 90s. California's cliffs are packed sand. They soak up water, they weaken. And when waves carve away enough of the base, the whole face drops without warning. A home can sit on the edge for decades looking perfectly fine. And then one morning, the backyard is gone. If you want proof that this keeps happening and nobody learns from it, look at Pacifica. 15 miles south of San Francisco. 3 apartment buildings on Esplanade Avenue became world famous when the 2015 El Niño storms sent 20 feet of cliff crashing into the ocean in 2 weeks. Multi-story buildings dangling over a 70-foot drop. The photos went everywhere. Those buildings are gone now, torn down at public cost, but the cliff they sat on is still eroding. And the homes behind them are next in line. The people who lost their homes in Pacifica did not go quietly. Jonathan Levine was photographed standing in his doorway with the Pacific showing through cracks in the foundation behind him. Eileen Horan was caught on camera shutting her patio door facing the ocean for the last time. Their homes are rubble now. The cliff keeps retreating. Joan Levin was 84 years old. She spent $200,000 over 45 years trying to save her property. $200,000 of her own money. Crews drilled 20 reinforced steel holes 50 feet deep into the bluff. She still lost a football field's worth of cliff. She was forced to leave in 2023. 45 years of fighting, $200,000 spent, and she lost anyway. Melissa McConnell moved her entire house 20 feet back from the edge in 2016. Picked the whole thing up and moved it. It was not enough. It was torn down 2 years later, the last house on the block. And here is the part that should make you angry. When Pacifica's city government proposed managed retreat, the idea that some properties are simply too close to a failing cliff to save, homeowners and real estate agents fought back so hard they knocked the mayor out of office. The city's current plan openly rejects retreat and pushes seawalls instead. Seawalls that bounce wave energy downward and speed up erosion on the neighbor's property. The wall protects one house and wrecks the next one over. Scientists have been documenting this for 40 years. It has not changed the politics, and the walls are still going up. Now here is the accountability. The warnings were not vague. They were exact, dated, and filed with the agencies in charge of approving building on California's coast. 1985. A federal study flags 11% of the coastline as critically eroding. 2002, that number jumps to 72%. Gary Griggs, a professor at UC Santa Cruz, has been publishing research on this since the 1970s. 15 books, 55 years. Same finding every single time. Nothing anyone builds will hold back the Pacific Ocean forever. Peter M. Douglas co-wrote the California Coastal Act in 1976, specifically to stop clifftop building. The law clearly bans new construction that would need seawalls to survive, but a loophole in Section 30,235 allows seawalls to protect existing buildings. Builders figured out the trick. Use low erosion estimates to get the permit. Then demand a seawall using scarier numbers once the house is built. That game has been played for decades. Today, 14% of California's entire coastline is walled off. In Southern California, 38%. A 500% increase in 47 years. The most devastating result of that failure landed on August 2, 2019, at Grandview Beach in Encinitas. A 50-ton slab of sandstone fell from an 80-foot cliff onto people sitting on the beach below. Julie Davis, 65. Her daughter Ann Davis Clave, 35. Her sister Elizabeth Charles Cox, 62. None of them survived. They had been celebrating Cox's cancer going away. The city's own 1984 general plan had named Grandview as a top target for bluff collapse. An engineering report called for 80 feet of rock bolts. Only 35 feet were installed. The rest was never funded. 3 women lost on a beach the city had on paper as dangerous for 35 years. The families reached a $32.85 million settlement, and every single one of these problems is getting worse right now. Climate change is hitting every factor at the same time. Sea levels along California's coast have risen 8 inches over the past century, and the rate is picking up speed. That rise is expected to double cliff erosion rates across Southern California by the end of the century. Atmospheric rivers are getting stronger and more frequent every year. The 2022 and 2023 season alone saw 38 of them slam the West Coast, with 9 hitting in a single 3-week stretch. $50 billion in property now faces erosion or flooding. That is not a worst-case guess. That is the middle of the range. And it is not just homes. The Lawson Rail Corridor, the second busiest passenger rail line in the country, runs right along eroding cliffs in San Clemente and Del Marche. In San Clemente, the tracks have shifted 28 inches toward the ocean and are still moving. 5 shutdowns since 2021, 12 months of total downtime, over $300 million in emergency repairs. In Del Mar, the long-term fix is a tunnel relocation priced at over $4 billion. $4 billion to move 1.7 miles of train track. Highway 1 through Big Sur closed for 3 years after a single slide. $500 million in lost tourism. And scientists are now asking openly whether the state is pouring hundreds of millions into a road the geology will simply keep destroying. Insurance companies are fleeing. Standard homeowner policies do not cover erosion, landslide, or ground movement. The California FAIR Plan, the insurer of last resort, covers fire damage only, not cliff collapse, not sliding ground, not your house moving 13 inches a week toward the ocean. Over 100,000 California homeowners lost coverage between 2019 and 2024. And more companies are leaving every year. For families on clifftop properties, this means they are paying mortgages on homes that are uninsurable, unsellable, and in some cases, unlivable. That is the reality for tens of thousands of people up and down the California coast right now. Coastal living costs in Southern California are expected to jump 5-fold by 2050. The rock beneath these homes scores 28 out of 100 on a hardness scale, and the ocean hitting it is rising higher every year. A December 2024 court ruling in the Casa Mira case is starting to change the legal math. The court ruled that existing buildings under the Coastal Act means buildings put up before 1977. That could limit future seawalls for newer homes. But the political picture is frozen. Governor Newsom has vetoed retreat funding. The real estate lobby has spent over $1 million fighting it. And families caught between a coast that is pulling back and a government that refuses to say the word retreat are left with nothing. Back in Rancho Palos Verdes, 11 dewatering wells keep pumping around the clock. They have pulled over 450 million gallons of groundwater from the slide zone. The slide has slowed from 13 inches per week to just over 1. But the wells can never be turned off. If they stop, the ground soaks through again. And the whole thing starts moving. 174 homes still have no power. The city has banned all new building in the landslide zone permanently. 700 acres remain under watch. And the families still living there are waiting for buyout checks that have not arrived, in homes they cannot sell, on ground that has not stopped moving. Some of them have been waiting for over a year. Some of them have been waiting their whole lives because the slide zone was mapped before they ever moved in. Nobody told them. Or, if they were told, nobody told them what it actually meant. 72% of California's coastline is made of rock that scores 28 out of 100. $50 billion in property sits on top of it. $50 billion. And the warnings go back 40 years. The ocean does not read reports. It does not wait for permits. It does not deal with seawalls. Every year, it rises a little higher. Every storm, it pushes a little further. And the cliffs keep falling